As I sat in this house for the past 2 days, I've listened to the members on the opposite side that comes to the house to speak about nothing, but they speak about their track record. Mr. Speaker, the person who spoke just before me is delusional, very delusional. She spoke about Upper Mazoni Teachers Quarter in bad condition. Mr. Speaker, that is the track record of APNU AFC between 2015 to 2020, before we took office. And we have to fix that, Mr. Speaker. We will fix the damage that you have put in Upper Mazoni, APNU AFC, when they were in government. Mr. Speaker, I rise to give my contribution on Budget 2022, but before I can go further, let me at this time commend the competent minister within the Office of the President responsible for Finance, Honorable Ashley Kumar Singh, and staff of the Ministry of Finance, and also competent ministers in various ministries and staff in bringing this People's Budget, Center Budget 2022 to this Honorable House. Mr. Speaker, I have listened to debate for the last 2 days from the Honorable members of the House on the opposition side, who speaks of budgets of no substance, no value, clueless relatively to Budget 2022. Mr. Speaker, the opposition, APNU AFC, as I speak now, sits in this House as passengers with no driver, no captain. I can even go further to say that they are left at the orphanage, fatherless and motherless. Mr. Speaker, the members on the other side seem to have a reading and mathematics problem. They cannot understand the content of this budget 2022. They cannot understand the content of this budget 22. The budget is too big. They cannot call the figures. They all get mixed up with US Guyana dollars. They all get mixed up with US Guyana dollars. They find all kinds of excuses that they were given 2 working days to examine this budget 2022. But Mr. Speaker, I want to inform the members on the other side that this PPPC government is a caring 24/7 government to make sure the needs of the people are met. Mr. Speaker, honorable members on the other side spoke volumes of speeches describing the budget, the biggest and the worst. But I want to remind the opposition on the other side that the worst record we have in the Guyana Parliament history is the leader of the opposition who resigned as a leader of the opposition just before hours. Competent honorable minister Dr. Ashley C. can present Guyana's biggest and historic $552.9 billion budget to this honorable House. Mr. Speaker, team steadfast against challenges, resolute in building our one Guyana, speaks of itself. We, the PPPC government, is prepared to stand steadfast against all challenges, whether it be COVID, flood, or even the opposition, APNU, the new variant in this country, who attempt to undermine the developmental agenda in voting against Amerindian development budget in 2020, interrupting the consideration of 2021 budget, and interrupting the Natural Resource Fund Bill 2021. Mr. Speaker, the opposition, APNU AFC, has a record of cutting budget but adding new taxes in Guyana to Guyanese citizens. Mr. Speaker, members of the opposition side come to this House with the aim of dividing Guyanese population, where almost all the speakers who spoke for the last 2 days before me stated that 50% of the population belongs to them. But let me make it clear, Mr. Speaker, the People's Progressive Party civic government is for all Guyanese, one Guyana, regardless of your gender, religion, ethnicity, and affiliation. We are one Guyana government. Mr. Speaker, Budget 2022 is a landmark for building Guyana's future. When the history of our country shall have been written, the future generation will consider that 2022 was the year in which Guyana's great transformation began. Mr. Speaker, I turn to the question frequently asked about our PPPC manifesto. I have in my hand here our manifesto, our plan for prosperity, one country, one people, one future. It's a plan for 2020 to 2025 and not an annual plan. However, the People's Progressive Party Civic, led by His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Arfan Ali and Prime Minister retired Brigadier and former Chief of Staff Honorable Mark Phillip, has already delivered to the Guyanese population its commitment within short 18 months. Mr. Speaker, we, the PPPC in 2020, restored school children cash grant to $15,000 per child and $4,000 uniform allowance to all public school children, and extended to private school children. And because we care, we increased the school children cash grant in 2022 to $25,000 and $5,000 uniform allowance. And so, Mr. Speaker, $30,000 per child will go directly to their pocket for all Guyanese children. Mr. Speaker, opposition members on the other side of this House is so concerned about the pensioners. But Mr. Speaker, lest we forget that the same APNU-AFC government who now trying to show concern for the pensioners increased pension for the elderly by $1,000 in 2019. But Mr. Speaker, as soon as we came into this office, we increased the pension to $25,000 plus the $25,000 one-off cash grant for the elderly people of this country, and now to $28,000 in less than 2 years. And because we care, we will do more, as stated in our 2020-2025, a plan for prosperity. Mr. Speaker, again on the opposite side spoke about budget cut in certain regions controlled by APNU-AFC. But Mr. Speaker, I want to put on record that Region 7, controlled by APNU-AFC, have seen major developmental projects ever done before. School Belt and Dark Point, Isano, Ramadan, Kurutuku, Teachers Quarter in Perima, Health Facility in Bartica, Camera and Batavia Health Centers, Doctors Quarter in Bartica, were all undertaken by the PPPC government. Mr. Speaker, the budget speaks of road and bridges. Again, Mr. Speaker, I want to put on record that the bridges at 70, 72, 73 miles and Batavia Road, Camarang to Ramadan, that was ignored by APNU-AFC, was done by the PPP government while in office. Mr. Speaker, I want to inform the Honorable House that the Amerindian development is on the move in all Amerindian villages. Presidential grant have been increasing by the PPC government. Village economic grant ranging from 5 million to 15 million was a booster shot to Amerindian villages economy. And so, Mr. Speaker, if I go on and on, my time allotted to me will be exhausted. So I move on to water. Mr. Speaker, as we know, water is life. Again, in our manifesto, the PPPC plan to improve access to and enhance quality of great water system in the hinterland. Mr. Speaker, as I speak now, the residents of Camarang and Jawala, where my honorable member Don Hastings resides in, she can attest to that, now enjoy the flows of water in their yard under the PPPC government. And in 2022, Mr. Speaker, 994.5 million is budgeted under Hinterland Water Supply Program, which will make provision for the new water supply system to be installed at Warwata, Philippi, Isemeru, and Tasurin in Region 7. What a caring PPPC government we have. Mr. Speaker, air transportation is very critical in the hinterland villages, especially Region 7 and 8, where they rely on aircraft to transport their basic food and medical supplies into their villages. And so, as I speak now, Mr. Speaker, There are food items and medical supply lying at the airport but cannot be transported due to airstrip condition. Mr. Speaker, these airstrips were reported to the Honorable Patterson as a subject minister, but he failed to improve those airstrips. Mr. Speaker, today I want to commend the Ministry of Public Works for allocating $600 million for upgrading 4 airstrips in Talant communities, Iterumbang, Caris Paro, Ikeraku Bottom, and Purima, that will improve the lives of Amerindian people, minors, and medivac on emergency cases. Mr. Speaker, members of the opposition keep their eye on oil money, but they forget that they are the ones who interrupt the passage of Natural Resource Fund Bill on the 29th December 2021, but were unsuccessful. The NRF bill is a bill paving the way for all Guyanese to be beneficiaries of the NRF. Mr. Speaker, the APNU-AFC seems to be worried and troubled because they know that the PPPC government will do more and will continue to do more for the people of Guyana. And they very well know that they will remain in their rightful seat as opposition. Mr. Speaker, Guyanese are confident that Guyana is in rightful place under the stewardship of His Excellency Dr. Mohamed Arfan Ali and his government. Mr. Speaker, Guyanese benefited more from cash transfers other than Caribbean countries. This is a World Bank report, Mr. Speaker. Household in Guyana has received cash transfer to cushion the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, and a new World Bank record report has found that the cash transfer provided in Guyana were much more than several other Caribbean countries. Mr. Speaker, on data by the World Bank, Guyana is the 3rd highest government in the group of countries studied. Mr. Speaker, Guyanese are in a safe place, and the PPPC government will continue to provide services to all Guyanese population without discrimination. Mr. Speaker, let me further put on this record. Caribbean countries largely dependent on exporting goods and providing services like tourism have been beset by COVID-19 pandemic. However, Mr. Speaker, Caribbean Development Bank is projecting greater economic recovery with the new oil producer Guyana, leading the region's economic growth. This projected outturn is dominant by Guyana. Growth in Guyana is projected to be massive at 47.5%. And so, Mr. Speaker, as I close here, I want to support the $552.9 billion budget is the people's budget, and it is for all Guyanese. One Guyana is for all Guyanese, even it's for members on the other side. I thank you.